Fran Schreiberg, there are some questions for you as well. So if you can step out to the podium, and we'll begin with Councilman Reyes.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank you for your hard work and your insight as to what can allow for environment for enforcement. There's another perspective, and I wanted to ask you this question in regards to process. Many of these car washes require sewer permits. They use water. They have to perform at how they deal with the federal mandated laws when it comes to contaminated water and how it's recycled and treated. Has there been any examples in which a city has been able to either deny and or create some points of checks and balances when it comes to how they treat their workers? Has that been aligned? Because I know the city has low wage, we have laws that pertain to salaries, compliance issues. Has that type of law ever been enforced, or do you think the city is in a position to move in that direction, given your experience in enforcement?
I think that the city has, certainly as a proprietor, as a entity that purchases some services, has a great deal of power. In addition to that, I think you have kind of the local police power that is given to you as a governing body to make sure that the health and the welfare of your citizens is considered, and I think in that vein you could approach it in that way. You're catching me in an area of law that's a little bit beyond what my expertise is, but I mean that would be my off the top of the head comments. I do think you can do it. I think it's a combination.
I think we need to be creative as to how we move on enforcement because of the cut in personnel and how we perform administratively in allowing these facilities to exist. I chair planning, land use, and management, and I do know we have some checks and balances in the planning police powers, and I just want to see if I can create a leveraging point as a city that deals with these kinds of businesses when they treat people in the manner that they have been. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Fran. There's one more question from Doug, please.
And this is in some ways a follow-up on the councilman's, a different role that cities might do, and I just wondered if you had a thought on it. When I was listening to Marco speak earlier about Marina Car Wash, I get advertisements from Marina Car Wash all the time, and it looks like a very nice place. And as a consumer, and from a consumer watchdog perspective, I think of what the consumer sees and how the city and how government can help consumers sort of play a role in enforcement through their pocketbooks in a way. And as I hear about this, I wonder what role can a city play and can the enforcement agencies play in developing a set of standards that a consumer can understand, so we can know the good actors from the bad actors, so we can choose, like we choose the restaurant with an A over the restaurant with a D. Is there an agency that can come in and set up a grading system, work with car wash workers and say, we know the right place for consumers to go, because all we rely on now is those glossy advertisements and the Wednesday discounts.
Again, this is a little out of my normal field, but I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't work on something like that. There certainly are programs that are set up by private enterprise to evaluate businesses and to promote those that are treating their workers well, that are providing proper services and so forth. And I think that in terms of working with your enforcement agencies, your district attorney, your city attorney, and so forth here, that you can look to kind of their experiences with some of these bad actors and also address that in the kind of grading system that you're developing. I think you're not going to be at great risk if there's been outside parties who have kind of gone through a legal process to define who those bad actors are. Again, this is a little beyond my normal expertise.
Great.
I'm not sure which worker to ask the question to, but I'll put the question out there and maybe we can figure out who it is. I'm curious, there were a number of people who mentioned the role of this being a very highly immigrant-based field, and I'm wondering how that has played a role in some of these violations. If there's any worker that can maybe address issues of whether immigration status enters into the fray in their work. In particular, I think Maria Hernandez mentioned of what she saw happening with some of the workers. So.
Great. And while they figure out which worker is going to ask that, I have another question for another worker, actually for Aura Lopez. Una pregunta para usted en particular. My question is actually related to the back injury that she sustained on the job, and she talked about filing a wage and hour claim for the with the labor commissioner. But I'm curious as to whether the employer, where there was a workers' compensation claim filed as well. Entonces, mi pregunta es acerca de la herida que usted sostuvo cuando tuvo el accidente en el trabajo y se lastimó la espalda. ¿El empleador le proporcionó compensación de trabajo?
No,
If you can. ¿Y cómo recibió cuidado médico? How did you receive medical care after that?
pues al principio tuve que ir al hospital general
At the beginning, I had to go to General Hospital.
y ahí apliqué para un seguro médico que se llama ORSA
There, I applied for a health insurance called ORSA,
y de ahí me prohibieron la medicina
and from there, they can provide me
y
with medication
los exámenes que me hicieron.
as well as the test that they did.
Y el empleador nunca se responsabilizó. The employer never took responsibility for the injury.
No, hasta que tuve que poner una queja para que ya él me diera la hoja.
No, until I file a complaint so I can get a sheet from him.
Great. Okay. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Do we have a worker lined up to respond to the first question? María Aide?
So the question again is how immigration status plays a role in the life of the workers.
El estatus migratorio de las personas no tiene nada que ver porque hay trabajadores que tienen documentos y hay también
The immigration
otros que
status really has not much, to do there because there are some of the workers that do have legal documents and are still mistreated. Todo lo que usted dice que no tiene nada que ver porque algunos trabajadores sí tienen papeles y de todos modos son maltratados, es lo que usted me dijo.
Sí, así es.
Are you aware, or maybe there's another worker who's aware of an employer who has ever threatened workers with reporting their immigration status to ICE or to some other agency?
Member, would you please speak a little louder? The
Sorry.
interpreter's having a little hard.
I just wanted to know if anyone knows of an experience where a car wash employer had threatened a worker with reporting their immigration status to ICE or some other authority.
En el car wash donde yo trabajé,
At the car wash where I worked,
cuando la campaña Clean Car Wash estaba haciendo un picket line afuera del car wash,
when the Clean Car Wash campaign was doing a picket line outside the car wash,
el dueño del car wash estaba tan furioso
the owner of the car wash was so furious
que empezó a gritar que todos nosotros íbamos a estar despedidos
so he began yelling, screaming, saying, all of you are going to be fired,
y que iba a traer a migración
and he was
para
going
que
to
nos
bring
llevara
immigration
a
to
todos.
take us away, all of us. Entonces
it
la
sounds like the
pregunta
answer is
la
yes, at
respuesta es
least.
sí. Si tiene que ver el estatus migratorio de alguien de la manera que se trata.
La respuesta es no, porque todos los trabajadores somos inmigrantes y no inmigrantes. So, tienen papeles y no tienen papeles, pero el
The
empleado
answer would be no
generaliza a todos
The answer
por igual.
would be no because some of them do have legal documents, some of them don't, but the employer is just, he generalizes all workers the same.